FPL Game Week 35, everything you need to know. In today's complete guide and final decisions video, we will take a look at hopefully everything you need. We will talk about the fixture announcements. We will talk about when you should be looking to play some of your chips if you've got them left, like the assistant manager, the bench boost like me, and the triple captain. We'll have a look at some of the best players to buy for the final 4 weeks of the season and what I plan on doing with my team this week. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. And just offer a bit of a disclaimer, I'm recording just as Nottingham Forest versus Brentford has kicked off. I know lots of you have Brian and Mbeumo in this match. I also have Chris Wood as well. But yes, I don't know the outcome of that match. And when we talk about it later on, we will see what happens. You will, of course, watching know whether I'm happy with the Chris Wood points or I'm sad with Brian and Mbeumo getting returned. Before we dive into too much of this video, of course, we need to talk about the fixture announcement. The Premier League has announced that the 2 FA Cup games that we needed to be rescheduled for Manchester City versus Bournemouth and for Wolves versus Crystal Palace will be staying in Game Week 37, but moving to the midweek of Game Week 37 after the FA Cup final. They've also published an article saying we are set to have no more doubles or blanks this season, which does indicate that Aston Villa versus Spurs is also not going to move. However, the clubs themselves have actually not confirmed that. So although based on the articles that I'll put on screen now, it looks like 95, 99% chance that that fixture won't move. In theory, it is not 100%. And there is a very small chance that it could still go into Game Week 36, although it seems very, very, very unlikely. I just want to offer a little bit of caution that in theory, it doesn't feel 100% guaranteed because the clubs haven't actually announced when that fixture is going to be played. But the Manchester City Bournemouth game and the Wolves Crystal Palace game has been moved to the midweek of Game Week 37. So it does look like no doubles and no blanks left this season. So diving in and answering some of the key questions for this week. The first one is, what should you do with Crystal Palace? Now they play Forest at home, then they play Spurs away, then they play an FA Cup final, and then they play Wolves at home before Liverpool away on the final day. I don't mind if you want to sell some of their players. I definitely do not think they are a priority sell. I still think the likes of Mateta, Sarr, Eze, Munoz are good holds for the next few weeks, and their minutes have been a little bit uncertain over the past few weeks, but they only play once a week now. They play this week on Monday night, then they play the following weekend, and then it's still a week off until the FA Cup final. Now, the Wolves at home game does come just 3 days after the FA Cup final, so there is a little bit of risk of rotation there. But that is their final home game of the season, so maybe all of their key players will still play that. I definitely don't think I'd be panicking, probably taking -4s to sell them because you don't like them. Now, if you like players in their place, then that is a different matter, but I wouldn't be panicking on Crystal Palace. Next up is having a look at Game Week 35 captaincy ranking. It is a wide open week. Personally, I would be putting the captaincy on a player that you are comfortable with, that you think has a good chance of getting returns this week, because there is no clear and obvious option. My ranking is Brian and Mbeumo 1, Alexander Isak 2, who I think is going wildly under the radar, Marmoush 3, Kevin De Bruyne 4, Jared Bowen 5, and Mo Salah probably in and around that as well. Those are probably the players I would consider the most. In terms of captaincy ranking, the safe bet will be to bring Brian and Mbeumo, who looks like he's going to be about 50% captain amongst the players that replied to my poll on Twitter. In terms of expected points as well, there's very little to pick between them. Manchester City predicted to score slightly more goals, but of course, Spurs and Man United against Mbeumo and Bowen predicted to rotate heavily. Of course, they play in Europe again tonight after me recording this video. It does feel like if you can pick a player who gets some sort of return, you'll be absolutely fine this week. It doesn't really look like any of these are going to go off massively because, of course, we have some of the newly promoted teams in Leicester and Southampton playing each other and Everton playing against Ipswich. There isn't really a banker in terms of fixture. So again, personally, Mbeumo is likely to be my captain if I buy him this week. Alexander Isak I also like, along with Marmoush, given that Erling Haaland is not back and it doesn't look like he's going to be in the squad for the Wolves game. So Marmoush and De Bruyne still remain great options. But I do think it is wide open if you fancy someone. And actually, if you're looking for a differential and you're chasing rank, it could be a great week to do it. The other options and the other big questions is, what should you do if you still have the chips available? Like, as I said in the beginning, there's probably somewhere between a 0 and a 3% chance that the Villa Spurs game in theory could still be moved because the clubs haven't actually confirmed it, but it looks very, very, very unlikely. So we're going to talk about chips as if there are no doubles. Starting off with the assistant manager, I do think I'd probably be playing it this week, and I would be playing it on Glasner at home to Nottingham Forest. It is one of the best table bonus games. If you're also looking for another table bonus manager, you could put it on Brighton at home to Newcastle this week as well. Outside of that, if you're looking for slightly longer term options, I like the look of Pep Guardiola for their next 3 games. Wolves at home, Southampton away, Bournemouth at home. Now, there's no table bonus in there, of course, with Manchester City, but you probably expect them to win those 3 games. You could also play it on Everton as well. They have Ipswich at home, then Fulham away, which is set to be table bonus. It's not guaranteed, but it is at the moment, and then Southampton at home. So with Everton, you might have 2 nice home games against the relegation teams and a table bonus game away at Fulham, who don't have that much to play for as well. The one that we did look at for game week 36 until the end of the season was Wolves. The issue is with Wolves performing so well at the moment, Brighton, Crystal Palace and Brentford might have 0 table bonus games in it anymore, so it doesn't look quite as good. So if you can save it, I probably would look to play it this week, as I said, on either Glasner, Pep, or on David Moyes. If you're on wildcard this week, again, if your team looks fine this week, in theory, you could delay it and play the wildcard in game week 36 or game week 37 if you wanted to. But generally, the wildcard looks best this week, and we will have a look at a draft later on in this video. The bench boost, unfortunately, is very team specific. If you're looking at a bench that looks decent this week, then absolutely play it. There isn't really a specific week that looks better than the previous ones. I would be very wary of playing it in game week 38, just because we expect a lot of rotation that week. So it's probably 35, 36, 37, and it really depends on a lot of your players and some of those bench players that you have. At the moment, I still have mine, and I'm about 80% planning on playing it in game week 37, 20% planning it on game week 36. In theory, I could play it this week, but I do have someone like a Bukayo Saka who I don't expect to start this week, so that does put me off game week 35. I think game week 36 and game week 37 are probably best for the bench boost if you still have it. And then we're having a look at a triple captain, and that feels wide open. Again, you probably just need to pick a single fixture that you quite like and an asset that you quite like. The safe option for me would probably be playing on Mo Salah in game week 38 at home to Crystal Palace, a game where, of course, they'll have the Premier League trophy and we'll be expecting them to do quite well there. A few other options that you could look at is Ollie Watkins at home to Tottenham in game week 37. If it stays, of course, game week 37, it would be just before the Spurs Europa League final if they were to make it, and probably a very heavily rotated Spurs team. You could, of course, have a look in game week 36. Chris Wood has Leicester at home, or Manchester City has Southampton away. So someone like a Kevin De Bruyne captain or a Marmoush triple captain could be the one to look at. Finally is the free hit. To be honest, if you have the free hit, I would probably be saving it now until game week 38. There are a few teams, particularly looking at Bournemouth, Arsenal, and someone like a West Ham potentially, and also having a look at someone like a Liverpool with good fixtures on the last day that we're not massively invested in. So you could free hit to go for triple Bournemouth at home to Leicester and triple Arsenal away at Southampton, where we don't have that much investment. And there is often rotation for some of the assets we normally own. So I would be saving the free hit until game week 38. So having a look at a wildcard draft, and this is just a general wildcard. If you do have the bench boost left to play, there are a couple of changes that you'd make, particularly the Bournemouth assets that you have on the bench. You probably would need to swap them out and maybe add an extra Nottingham Forest or a Everton defender in there in place of Howson. And also you might look to change Cliver, because this is not always set well for the bench boost, but it does look, for example, with those Bournemouth players, looking well for game week 38 because of their fixture at home to Leicester that not many of us will have investment in. Jordan Pickford and Sells are probably my 2 favourite rotating goalkeepers between now and the end of the season. You basically have Ipswich at home, Leicester at home, Southampton at home, Chelsea at home over the last 4 weeks, which does look pretty good between them. Gvardiol, O'Brien, Munoz and Williams rotate pretty well. If you have the money to go from Williams up to someone like a Milenkovic, I probably would. If you have the money for Howson up to Kirkes, you could do that as well, but it is dependent on your budget. Bowen is in my midfield along with De Bruyne, Salah and Mbeumo, and of course Kluivert is the one on the bench, just ready set for that Leicester at home fixture, so you don't have to worry too much about the transfers when you get to game week 38, whereas most of the rest of us will have a bit of an issue when that week comes around because we don't have loads of investment in the teams that have a good fixture that week. And then up front, we're going Watkins, Marmoush, Visser. Isak is very unfortunate to miss out. You could go with him if you have the team value over Visser. You could go with him over Marmoush, given you've got De Bruyne, or you could go with him over Ollie Watkins as well. But this is just about where I'd go. Captaincy is probably on Brian Mbeumo, given he's top of the ranking, and vice captain could be anywhere, but I've put it on Jared Bowen. It could be Kevin De Bruyne as well, but you probably won't be needing it. With just 4 weeks to go, let's have a look at some of those top players to buy. Jordan Pickford is the best goalkeeper, followed by Sells. Those are the 2 that we've gone on wildcard. If you need a cheaper option, it's probably Flecken with some nice fixtures that we know of between now and the end of the season, of course, because we're all buying into the Brentford defence. In defence, if you still don't own Gvardiol, he's probably number one. Then it is probably Everton and Forest. Again, it depends a little bit on what weeks you need them, because of course Milenkovic has a great fixture next week, whereas O'Brien is better in 35 and 37 as well. Outside of that, a little bit like going with Flecken. Collins is probably the best shout at Brentford, and Aït-Nouri as the fifth one. Not a great fixture this week, but the final three look pretty good for him. Then we're moving into midfield, and Brian Mbeumo is probably the best player to look to buy this week, followed by Jared Bowen. I do like Kevin De Bruyne. Of course, they are the early kickoff on Friday evening, so we might get confirmation that he starts. But given he didn't play in the FA Cup, he looks set to start pretty much every game left this season. The only word of caution I would look on that is if we do get Haaland back for game week 37 onwards, what does that do to De Bruyne's positioning? Because it will likely push Marmoush deeper, which might push De Bruyne further back as well. The other ones, I find it pretty difficult outside of Mbeumo, Bowen, De Bruyne to buy this week. I like Gibbs-White. I like Rodgers. In theory, I like Elanga, although his minutes have been a little bit of a concern. I like Kluivert for the long term, and if Arsenal are going to rotate, you could do worse than buying him this week as well. You could have a look at someone like a Jacob Murphy, who's been very good for us recently as well. Then we're moving up front, and it's Watkins, Visser, Isak, Marmoush, and Cunha. Chris Wood is very unfortunate to miss out, and if he does well tonight, maybe he should be in this top five. Maybe he should be in there over Cunha based on the fixture this week, but he just looks unstoppable and looks like a player that could absolutely haul any week, whereas Chris Wood is more for sort of one return as we're seeing so far this season. But Ollie Watkins, if you have the ability to go and get him and have the budget, I love between now and the end of the season because of Marcus Rashford's injury. Having a look at the benching ranking for this week, Pickford, Ederson, Flecken, Raya, Martinez, Sells, Henderson, Areola, Pope, Alisson, Verbruggen, Kepa. I probably would play David Raya over most of the goalkeepers that you've got, unless you've got someone like a Saliba or Kivior that you're starting in your defence and you don't particularly want to start a double up. You could go with someone like an Areola and a Saliba if you don't want to double up on the Arsenal defence, but generally I would be playing David Raya over most of the goalkeepers you will probably own. Into the midfield and forwards and defenders as well. Brian Mbeumo, of course, Mo Salah, Marmoush, De Bruyne. The City guys do have a slight star next to them just because they do play on Friday evening after the deadline, the earliest game of the game week, so we might get slight confirmation. But in theory, if we got no news, I would be starting De Bruyne because I expect it to start, but I also have Savinho slightly lower down the list because I'm not sure he will. Bowen, Watkins, Visser, Palmer, most of these are pretty certain starters. Eze, Mateta, anyone who owns Bruno Fernandes. Then we've got Sarr. Sarr is just about over Rodgers, but I do think it's quite close. Then it's Murphy. Then it's Savinho, who I've spoken about. Then we start to move in some of the defenders, and they do actually come above someone like a Saka and an Evan-Nilsson as well. So Everton defence is in there, slightly over Gvardiol and Munoz. Then it's Saka. I just don't think he's going to start. I think the risk of 60 minutes or even less in 30 and 25 is too great, particularly because of the Champions League result. So I am planning on benching him this week, and a lot of you are going to be selling him. I know that. Evan-Nilsson, then it's Saliba and Kivior. Probably I would go with them over someone like a Konza, a Milenkovic, a Williams, a Wan-Bissaka, a Livramento, Burn, Aït-Nouri, and a Timber in as well at the bottom, because I don't think he will start either. Looking at the projections for Game Week 35 from Rob T, it's really difficult if you're not going for a Manchester City or an Everton defender to try and predict this week. No one even gets above a 35% outside of those two. So just play what feels like your most attacking defenders. Again, probably feels like the best idea. And trying to predict goals as well is not that easy. Not many teams hit that sort of 2-goal threshold that we really tried to look at. Manchester City and Brentford are the only teams that hit that. A few others do get close in the likes of Newcastle, Chelsea, Everton, Arsenal and West Ham as well. But generally, it doesn't feel like a week where there's loads of fixtures that are easy to call. So it might end up being quite a low-scoring game week. Then I know there was no team selection video from me on Thursday because I was just waiting for the fixtures. And I didn't think I really should record a video before we knew the fixtures for Game Week 36 and Game Week 37. So that's why it wasn't there. So basically, the rest of this video is going to be that in a slightly quicker period. A review of Game Week 34, free hit as we stand. 87 points so far. It is above my safety score, but I am recording again. It's 0-0 at the moment between Nottingham Forest and Brentford approaching half time. I still have Chris Wood. You can laugh at me. Let me hear it in the comments. The only player in my starting 11 outside of Chris Wood to be blanking at the moment is Cole Palmer. Everyone told me not to do it. I still did it. It didn't go well. Everyone else has done pretty well. Aït-Nouri, Sessegnon, Pope, Cucurella. Didn't have Jose Sarr. He was on my bench, but I realistically was never going to start him. I wanted one defender from a lot of teams, which I'm quite happy I did, although Jose Sarr saved a penalty. No Trippier as well, which was a slight issue, but again, I can't beat myself up about it. It's a green arrow at the moment, but what Chris Wood and Mbeumo do, Mbeumo against me, Chris Wood for me, will determine what my week really looks like. So in terms of potential transfers, it really is around the midfielders in Foden and Saka. I'm almost certain that I will do Foden to Mbeumo. Now, I haven't done it yet, and I won't do it until the deadline stream, just because, of course, Manchester City are the early game. And in the off chance we heard that Foden was going to start, I don't think we'll hear anything we haven't done recently. And I think it's even less likely that Foden starts a game of football. So I don't think we'll hear. So I do plan on doing Foden to Mbeumo. I only have one transfer, but I am also considering someone like Saka to De Bruyne or Saka to Bowen as well for a -4. The only thing with Arsenal is if they do get knocked out of the Champions League, then potentially holding on to Bukayo Saka for game week 37, Newcastle at home, and game week 38, Southampton away, suddenly doesn't feel like the worst idea after all. In theory, if I do Foden to Mbeumo, I also have money to do Ismaila Sarr up to Jared Bowen as well. That is something I've considered for a -4, and I would probably end up benching, of course, Saka and playing Rodgers as a result. The only other transfer I've considered as a -4 is selling Areola for Jordan Pickford. Again, David Raya, who I'll be playing for the next 3 weeks, has Bournemouth, he has Liverpool away and Newcastle at home in the next 3 games, whereas Pickford has Ipswich at home, Fulham away, Southampton at home, before I could then play David Raya away at Southampton on the final day as well. I do wonder if it's worth a -4. Taking a hit to back against the Arsenal defence completely doesn't feel like the most sensible idea this week, but looking at it on paper, I do just wonder if it would pay off. So going and having a look at my lineup for this week, things feel pretty okay. It's just some final tweaking and a little bit of a benching dilemma. David Raya, I'm going to go with. I don't think I'm going to take a hit to back against a very highly owned Arsenal defence. In theory, if that game ended 1-0, I wouldn't be completely shocked. So I think it's unlikely I take unnecessary hits between now and the end of the season. In defence, we're going with Gvardiol and Munoz, definitely. It's then Konza versus Milenkovic. Onaraina being back in the squad for Nottingham Forest was a bit of a boost, but Konza has the home game and probably playing against a team that I'd more likely to play against. And I have triple Crystal Palace, so playing Milenkovic doesn't really feel like it makes too much sense. So at the moment, Konza is in. Double Forest defence on the bench along with Areola. Into midfield, I've said I don't think Bukayo Saka is likely to start, so I am benching him at the moment this week. In theory, he could go, but I'm not sure it's worth taking a -4. Sarr, Salah and Mbeumo in for Foden is the plan, although not confirmed, and won't be until the deadline stream in case we hear on something of Foden starting, and then it is Morgan Rodgers. The front three of Marmoush, Mateta, Isak. I see people getting a little bit uncertain on Mateta, but now they only play once a week. I'm hoping we might see slightly more increased minutes, at least getting past the 60th minute. And again, I don't think it's worth me taking a -4 to sell him this week. I might go to Ollie Watkins in a few weeks, though, in game week 37. Might be part of the plan. Captaincy is really close based on my captaincy ranking, though, and Mbeumo is likely to get the armband. Alexander Isak has the vice captain again. 3-4-3 looks okay. Not the most exciting team this week, especially when I have to bench a £10 million player in Bukayo Saka. Saka and Foden have been a real nightmare on Wildcard, but feels like it's about time I get rid of at least one of them this week. So that is all for the complete guide video. Please do not forget it is a Friday evening deadline. The deadline is 6:30 p.m. UK time. There will be someone in the comments after the deadline saying that they missed it. Please, if you're watching this, do not let it be you. It is a Friday evening deadline. The stream is already scheduled, so click the link above and click notify for a reminder when that stream does go live. Drop any questions you have about Game Week 35, chips, anything in the comment section down below. If you don't get them answered, bring them to the stream on Friday evening and we will get them all answered then as well. Thank you all for watching. 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll be back again very soon.